Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Good for Bitcoin, your weekly pulse on Bitcoin innovation. It is Bitcoin Vegas week. We got a lot to talk about this week. Lots of announcements dropping on conference week. We are live at goodforbitcoin.com. Thank you to everybody who is tuning in live. And Kate, how was your week?
GM, we had a pretty good week. It's sad it's the first week that we're not together at Vegas.
I know.
But it's okay. We'll get into a little bit later, but it doesn't seem like we missed out on that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It feels like a light week. Yeah, we'll talk about some of the news that dropped and our thoughts there. But got to start with the public companies as always. Strategy, of course, bought some Bitcoin this week. They bought 3,273 Bitcoin. They now hold 818,334 BTC.
It's crazy. It feels really like not that long ago that we were saying they were in the 600,000s.
Seriously.
Now they're approaching 900. That's crazy. Then we have Strive. They bought 798 BTC and they now hold a total of 14,557.
Block, who is the creator of Square and BitKey and others, updated their proof of reserves, revealing an additional 114 BTC. They are now just shy of 9,000 BTC total on their balance sheet.
Nice. Then we have Capital B. They bought a whopping 6 and they now hold 2,943.
I would love to, be able to buy 6 Bitcoin in a week. That would
take
be
it.
Pretty nice. Smarter Web Company bought 28 BTC and they now hold 2,778 BTC. So I don't think I saw any sales this week. So maybe we're, around the corner of all of the miners selling. We'll see.
Yeah.
See if that holds.
There was a lot of ETF inflows this week. Like a lot of institutions were buying through BlackRock and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I posted the other day. I feel like I remember this every year that Bitcoin always pumps right before the conference and then it always drops after the conference. So it's holding up pretty well so far. We'll see if next week that changes. Yeah, if that trend continues. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are buying this week, so that's good for Bitcoin, I guess.
There you go.
A couple things dropped on Friday after we streamed the show last week, so we got to talk about those. First, speaking of public companies, Nakamoto, they are launching a professional BTC derivative strategy that's basically designed to generate income from volatility and hedge downside exposure. This includes things like covered calls, volatility trading, protective puts and hedges, and other things like that. Basically, rather than only holding their Bitcoin, they're trying to put it to work somewhat to generate some revenue with the Bitcoin that they're holding. They're doing this in partnership with Kraken and Bitwise. And yeah, their goal is to generate yield from BTC's high volatility while protecting against big drops.
Pretty cool.
And this one is pretty crazy. I have a lot of thoughts. So Paul Sztorc, he is Mr. Drivechain, not drivechain, drivetrain. Say that, 5 times fast.
You could convince me either one and I'd be just laughing the same. So drivechains is, I wouldn't be able to explain the mechanism these days, but it's kind of been this BIP for smarter contracts on Bitcoin and more L2s on Bitcoin and more things on Bitcoin that this guy, Paul Sztorc, has been trying to get
adopted on Bitcoin for years now. I remember back when I was working at BlockFi, when I was not super like in tune with like a lot of the developer kind of stuff that was happening on Bitcoin. I was just like, oh, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and you know, you're saving it, and that's it. He was like one of the first people that I'll rewind. There was a few like really big Bitcoin maxis that were at BlockFi, and one of them, his name is Henry. Shout out to Henry. He was on the compliance team, and we had like a little like Slack channel of like Bitcoin maxis, and he like posted about Paul Sztorc and this drive chain thing, and that it was like something that I had never really like thought about, which was like, you know, people continuing to iterate and improve Bitcoin, the network. And we did like several lunch and learns, and I think one of those lunch and learns actually Paul Sztorc ended up joining one of them and like talking to us about it. This was like probably 5 years ago. Henry ended up leaving BlockFi to join Paul Sztorc, and he was on the legal counsel there for a while. I don't know if he's still there or not, but shout out to Henry, one of the early Bitcoin maxis that I worked with. But anyway, so Paul Sztorc has, you know, been trying to get this drive chain thing on Bitcoin for years and years and years, and like has never really gotten any traction. I think kind of the main consensus with drive chains is it's very complicated, and you can do like 95% of what drive chains are trying to do with a lot less complicated BIPs that are also proposed. So I think it's just like that's the main reason. It's like it's so complicated that it's really hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, and it's just like not really gained a lot of traction. So I guess this past week, Paul Sztorc was like, screw it. We're just going to do this Bitcoin fork, and we're going to do a hard fork of Bitcoin, and we're going to call it eCash. And we're just going to do eCash now instead of Bitcoin. So if you have, it's a hard fork. So that means that it's a totally separate network, separate consensus, although it'll share a lot of the same rules that Bitcoin L1 has. So if you have Bitcoin, the example that he gave is if you have 4.19 BTC, you will get 4.19 eCash. So eCash is going to be the currency that's going to be part of this network. It's going to fork, and it's going to be like a one-time difficulty reset, meaning that mining on the network is going to be super crazy when it first launches because the difficulty will basically be 0. Imagine if we had like ASICs and all these huge mining rigs. Back when Bitcoin first launched, you know, people were mining with just like their computers, right? They didn't have all this specialized hardware. So to like immediately activate mining on this is going to be pretty crazy. And drive chains will be integrated. He says that there are 7 that are in development, and all will be merge mined on eCash. He says this includes a Zcash-like LT. Others include Truthcoin, which is for prediction markets, CoinShift, which is like a decentralized exchange, Bit Assets for NFTs, Bit Names for identity, and Photon, which is apparently like a quantum resistant chain. And this is the most controversial thing. He also announced a reassigning of Satoshi's coins, and basically all of Satoshi's coins, that so-called like Patoshi pattern, all of those coins are going to be manually reassigned to investors of this new project, which if you are a Bitcoiner, that probably doesn't sit very well with you, but very interesting. I think like any Bitcoin fork, you know, the last major Bitcoin forks that we had were like, you know, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, BSV, Satoshi's Vision. Like if you're trying to do a Bitcoin fork and it's like a hard fork, it's not Bitcoin anymore, right? So if you're basically, once that happens, you are effectively competing with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's not going to lose. Like if you're trying to hard fork against Bitcoin, you maybe have like a little bit of like success, but not relative to Bitcoin, certainly. One of the main things that I've always appreciated about like Stacks, for example, like in how Stacks has done things, is they always have taken like a really realistic approach to building on Bitcoin. Like Stacks and Manib, they, you know, of course recognize that Bitcoin is like the ultimate base layer. Bitcoin L1 is pretty basic, right? It doesn't support things like smart contracts today. So with Stacks, you have this separate network. It settles back to Bitcoin. It's trying to align itself with Bitcoin as closely as it can technologically do today. Without, you know, Bitcoin being updated or, you know, knowing about Stacks' existence. So everything settles back to Bitcoin, of course, and, you know, Stacks consensus kind of secures that. But Bitcoin itself doesn't, know that Stacks exists because it's not like a true smart contract, But Bitcoin does continue to evolve and improve, right? There's a lot of BIPs that we talk about on the show. There's like OpCat, and there's other stuff that isn't really like a BIP, but like BitVM and stuff like that. So there are, proposals that are out there to make Bitcoin L1 a little bit smarter over time to support, these things. And Stacks does plan to adopt, those future proposals and wants to move to a more trustless, decentralized kind of model. But it's just realistic about like, if you want to build a Bitcoin L2 today, this is how you would do it.
Yeah.
And maybe tomorrow there will be, some new thing that will allow you to further decentralize, but that's, that's what we can do today. So that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing that I've always appreciated about Stacks. And yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see what this eCash price ends up being. It's probably going to be like a big pump and dump from a lot of people. But if you're holding, your own keys, if you're holding your own Bitcoin, you'll presumably be able to like claim your eCash and sell it or hold it if you think, that maybe the project has some legs. I don't know, but I'm not very bullish on this.
Listen, I'm all for people going for their dreams, especially when you're the underdog and all the cards are stacked against you. But like this, to me, I hear this and I'm just like, what is this guy doing?
I thought that it was like fake at first, or like a scam.
Yeah, it's like almost so crazy. And like especially the part where it's like, well, I need to like fundamentally change one of the biggest things about Bitcoin so that I can like fund the project. And it's like, I don't understand how you think that's going to get traction and people on your side when like Bitcoiners are the most skeptical people out there.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. I don't know. I guess it's just like he maybe came to terms with the fact that like this is not going to happen on the L1, and he's just like, he wants drive chains to be a thing so bad that he's just going to do a hard fork for it. So like you said, I guess follow your dreams, I guess. But yeah, I'm not going with him on that. I don't think I'm gonna stay on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think we'll be digging the tombstone.
Yeah,
along with BSV and BCH and whatever else there was.
Yeah, I think so too. But we'll see. Maybe we'll hold it. I'll hold my eCash and we'll see what the price
You're
turns
going to be
into.
an early investor getting those Satoshi coins.
I will certainly not be putting additional money into it, but if I can claim a free airdrop, I guess I'll do that. All right. Well, we have some news to talk about with Bitcoin Vegas. Of course, the conference was this week, and it's always like a mixed bag with like announcements. I feel like whenever Bitcoin Vegas happens, or just the Bitcoin conference happens, it's always like usually the people that are up there that are speaking are usually reiterating announcements that have already happened. And there's not a lot of stuff that like actually drops, or they're saying, or it's like a lot of like announcements of announcements and, things that are coming soon. So we certainly got a lot of that, but yeah, it didn't seem, I mean, we already mentioned it. It didn't seem like it was quite as populated, I guess is the word. Compared to previous ones. There was like that one viral video or photo of that person. I forget who it was that posted it, but there was that one viral, photo that was going around of like that empty,
like all empty
conference room. And like that photo was taken on Industry Day, which is when like only the insiders are allowed to go there. And it's like that every year on Industry Days. Take that with a grain of salt. But even with that, it still, it did seem a little quieter, which I think is honestly like a good thing. I mean, we talked a lot about last year, from the conference about how many tourists were there, right? And how many people kind of seems to be there for the wrong reasons. So I don't know. I was getting a little bit of FOMO this week, actually. And I was kind of surprised by that just because it seemed like a good conference. And like the people that were there this year, I think were actually like very strong believers in like Bitcoin's fundamentals. And that's why they were there.
It also seemed like last year when we were there, it was very institutional heavy, and TradFi was here and Wall Street and all of that kind of stuff. From what I've seen of like just like sentiment on my end, it was very much like this was the year of sort of like regulators and politicians,
very
maybe.
Much so.
And like there was definitely still some backlash from like the, Bitcoiners who say like we're moving far away from the cypherpunk where we once started. And I think even like one person got escorted out. They were holding up a sign. I think it was her husband in the samurai case.
Yeah.
And like she got it escorted out. So like, I mean, a conference that's that size, like I understand you're probably trying to mitigate any situation, but They did say that there was like 30 to 40,000 people in attendance, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel you. Like, I don't know. Maybe it would have been like a more OG Bitcoin vibe, but like that's kind of like what I was seeing.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it. I saw a tweet this morning, and somebody was comparing like the vibes of the conference this year to when it was in Miami a few years ago. And that was like my first Bitcoin conference was that year in Miami, and I loved it. That was like, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, like it was my first one, so for me that was also like very exciting. But I think that was still maybe my favorite Bitcoin conference. It did feel the most like, yeah, everybody that was there was like a Bitcoin believer, and there wasn't like a lot of, I don't know. It just felt like very core to like Bitcoin. So
it didn't feel as infiltrated.
Yeah,
I guess
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned like a lot of politicians, a lot of government folks there this year. That's, I think, the main takeaways are all from like White House people, but
yes,
we'll talk about some of the takeaways. So SEC Chair Paul Atkins on stage, he unveiled this thing called Project Crypto, which is a commission-wide initiative to modernize security rules for digital assets. We talked about this a few weeks ago. They introduced this new token taxonomy that classifies most digital assets as not securities, meaning they're commodities, with an expanded commodity classification framework and that innovation exemption for tokenized assets. So yeah, we did talk about that a few weeks ago. So again, a lot of reiterating like recent announcements.
Yeah.
But the one notable thing was that he was the first sitting SEC chair to speak at a Bitcoin conference. Nobody had invited Gary Gensler previously.
What's Gary up to?
What is Gary up to? I don't know. I heard, I didn't listen to it. I heard he was in like some interview recently. So he's on the circuit, I guess. Maybe he's planning his next move. I don't know.
And then we had the acting attorney general, Todd Blanche, and FBI director, Kash Patel. They had a very high profile fireside chat called Code is Free Speech, Ending the War on Bitcoin. It's a pretty bold title.
Yeah.
But they were talking about reducing enforcement against Bitcoin developers and just really framing open source code as protected speech and potentially hinting at dropping certain cases and easing banking restrictions. So
yeah, I think that happened on the day of that samurai person as well. So and I think that this chat was also moderated by Paul Gruel, who's the legal officer at Coinbase. So I got to go back and maybe listen to it, but that's pretty interesting. Senator Cynthia Lummis, she announced that the Clarity Act would be marked up in May, which today is May 1st. So that is this month now. There's the quote from her says, "We are going to mark up the Clarity Act in May. We are going to get it to the finish line. We are going to have the market structure that allows us to innovate. You innovate, America, to lead the world on this freedom asset."
Yeah,
but you put this in here, maybe that it's not happening.
Yeah. It's just like it's been a 3-month delay, and she's just basically saying if it doesn't pass this year, like the next window for this to pass is 2030, which we've covered that. And then Alex Thorne from Galaxy Digital put his odds on it at 50-50. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it passes.
It's coming. That's what everyone keeps saying.
I keep seeing like these really bolded headlines like Clarity Act imminent to pass, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'm just like, oh, that's
it's always just these like clickbait Bitcoin headlines.
Yeah.
I feel like actually like better. I feel like I used to complain a lot more about like the clickbait Bitcoin headlines.
Don't you used to take the headline. Yeah, you used to like take the headline on the show and be like, here's what actually happened. But there was just too many. We couldn't cover all of them.
Yeah, we should bring that back. I'm sure maybe I'm just not looking hard enough. Or maybe like my I don't know, my For You
is just like,
timeline has been cleansed. Grok understands now to don't you dare show me these things, Grok. We also had the White House chief cryptocurrency advisor, Patrick Witt. He previewed that a, quote, major announcement regarding the next steps for the Bitcoin reserve will be made in the coming weeks. And as we know, we talked about a lot on the show, Trump signed several executive orders establishing like a Bitcoin reserve, but the next steps announcement suggests that maybe they'll purchase something, maybe they'll formalize an actual strategy for Bitcoin. I think like the main thing that we're still waiting on is that audit that they originally promised.
Yeah.
Like how many Bitcoin do they actually have? That's certainly kind of step one is seeing how much you have before you start accumulating even more. But yeah, they're teasing that in the coming weeks, so maybe we'll find out some more soon.
Could be something, could be nothing, but like the fact that they announced it at the conference definitely is probably more beneficial for Bitcoiners.
And Bitcoin conference returns to Nashville next year. No longer
That's
in
cool.
Vegas. I'm down with that, I think.
Good to change it up, I think.
Yeah. I was hoping it'd be back in Miami. I really liked Bitcoin Miami, but Nashville's cool. Centrally located too. I mean, if you're West Coast, East Coast, it's easy to get to. A few hour plane ride. So yeah, I think that's about all the news that came out of the conference directly. There's certainly like some announcements that came out around the time. I think one of the bigger ones was this one, which is Tether has introduced a proposal to merge 21, which is Jack Mallers' Bitcoin company that's in partnership with Tether, with Strike and Electron Mining. And we called this over a year ago that 21 and Strike were going to merge. You can go back and look at the tapes. It was
written in the stars.
Yeah, over a year ago, we called that this was going to happen. But yeah, basically Tether Investments, they intend to vote their shares in favor of this merger between 21 and Strike. And Jack Mallers also took the stage at the conference this week, and he called it the ideal Bitcoin company when talking about this merger. The transactions, this is a quote from Tether, said the transactions would allow the combined entity to leverage a strong balance sheet, a large-scale profitable operating business, and a financial services division built to spearhead Bitcoin adoption. Strike would be contributing a profitable financial services platform, global distribution, and regulatory infrastructure, and Electron would be adding a large-scale Bitcoin mining infrastructure, operational depth, and proven execution capabilities. Over a year ago now, when we first talked about 21 becoming a thing, Strike had shared some of their financials, and just like Tether, they were a very, very, very profitable company. With not a lot of employees. In 2024, they did like over $6 billion in volume. And they said that in 2025, they expected to generate between 8 to 9 figures in net profit with just around 75 full-time employees. And I tried to look it up, and they have, since they announced those numbers over a year ago, they have not updated them. But yeah, they're still, I'm sure, profitable based on those numbers. 21 will actually be, I guess, a productive company, and you'll have Strike as part of that, and this Bitcoin mining company as well. Super interesting. So maybe my 21 stock shares will go up a little bit. I think they're still down. We're still very down on that investment for sure.
Hey, that's pretty cool though. It's nice. It's fun to see like, someone who's such a hardcore Bitcoiner like pull something off like this and, at least make a dent or try to like do something really cool. So
yeah.
I'll be interested to watch it.
I think they are still number 2.
Yeah.
Behind strategy and in Bitcoin holdings. So, since the merger happened, which was now over a year ago, they haven't really done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're finally, I guess, making some moves, and it'll just be interesting to continue to track that. Yeah, Jack very much operates on a Bitcoin standard, right? They don't hold cash. They hold Bitcoin as aggressively as they possibly can. Yeah, very, very much aligned with the Bitcoin standard over there. I don't know if you saw this. I saw this over what day did this happen? Litecoin was hit with a 51% attack. Did you see that?
I just saw it because you had brought it up, but I had not really. Honestly, Litecoin, when I first started buying Bitcoin, and then I was like, oh, let me try other cryptos. I bought Litecoin, and then quickly after I was like, yeah, I don't need this. But no, I did not know about this until you shared it.
Yeah, so I saw this tweet from Alex Shevchenko, and he said that Litecoin experienced a coordinated attack on chain that resulted in a 13-block reorg that took more than 3 hours to generate. During this time, attackers were performing double spend attacks on multiple cross-chain swapping protocols. And then a few hours later, the official Litecoin account posted on their X account, basically confirming that a 0-day bug caused a denial of service attack that disrupted major mining pools, and non-updated mining nodes allowed this invalid transaction that allowed them to peg out coins to third-party decentralized exchanges. And then a 13-block reorg reversed those invalid transactions, and they won't be included in the main chain. And all valid transactions during that period, they say, remain unaffected. And the bug is now fully patched, and the network continues to operate normally. Yeah, definitely, some people dunking on Litecoin in the replies, saying like, if nobody is using Litecoin and it reorgs, like, how do you know? Like,
yeah,
nobody even noticed that this happened. But yeah, you had some thoughts here too.
Yeah, I found like, because after I read this, I was like, oh, like, let me get up to speed on it. And I found that like what happened is basically there was a core consensus bug, and it was like in their GitHub, like a month before this happened. So, some mining pools were like running updated code while some like were obviously remaining vulnerable. And that's like what created this like uneven playing field. But apparently, like you said, like above, you said like they said it was a 0-day event, but like I read a CoinDesk thing that said Litecoin is saying it wasn't a 0-day event. And so it's either,
That tweet came directly from Litecoin.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Litecoin.
Maybe I needed to do some further digging on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's either like very poor disclosure, or like
So what? So there was like a bug fix that was in GitHub just sitting there for weeks,
for like a month.
So
yeah,
and it was like public, so anybody could just see there's this bug that exists, and I can just exploit it now if I want to, because it hasn't been merged yet.
Yep.
That's great.
Crazy. But then I was just like, oh, this is such a great reminder as to like why just like the size and sheer mining power that is required to mine Bitcoin, it like really matters, you know, because like that's the whole thing, is like security of the network is expensive, and that's like by design, that's what you want, because if someone was going to hack Bitcoin, it would cost them way more than they would ever get in return, basically. And, then you just like ruin the credibility of the whole network. So it's just kind of like that, like flywheel in action. So like if there's not enough, price traction that like attracts people to mine Litecoin, then there's fewer incentives that go to miners. So there's fewer miners that want to secure the network, and it just makes it cheaper and easier for someone to
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about like decentralization and like trust and like risk, especially like through my job search and stuff. Like Bitcoin obviously is like the most decentralized, and like some would argue, and like I'm even coming to like the conclusion that like it's kind of like the only decentralized network out there, because truly, right? Like truly the only decentralized network out there, because we've talked about it the past couple of weeks. There's been all these like crazy hacks that have been going on. You've had Arbitrum that like, froze funds after their like governing body, decided to do it. All of these chains, you had like Ethereum back in the day that, reversed, their chain after like that huge DAO hack that happened. All of these chains have the power to do that. Their leaders might say that they never would, right? But like it's technically possible to do, even if it's like some big multi-sig or some, big like bridge, conglomerate of companies. The possibility exists. So as I'm doing my job search, I'm like a lot more open to just like working for like a CeFi crypto company than I am working for like
straight up DeFi,
an Ethereum company or something, because like at least the CeFi companies are honest about being centralized. And that's kind of where my head's been at lately.
Yeah. I feel you. I know like one of your quick headlines that we were going to talk about later is that April was the worst month ever for DeFi exploits, like hacks and scams and stuff like that. And it's just, yeah, I feel you. I would much rather like just work for like a Bitcoin CeFi than like an Ethereum DeFi or something like that. I'm totally with you.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So yeah, I saw this tweet and I wanted to mention it. I think most of these companies I have like never heard of, or DeFi protocols I have never heard of. April 2026 was the worst month ever in terms of on-chain DeFi exploits. $635 million lost in total, 28 incidents in 30 days. It really does seem like AI is like accelerating these in a big way. Maybe, maybe the what is it? The Mythos, Claude Mythos got leaked out or something. And these places are doing it. But yeah, like Drift protocol, that was the really big one. That was 285 million. Looking for some other ones on here. Hyperbridge, 2.5 million. Rhea Finance, 18.4 million. Grinex, 15 million. Volo Protocol, 3.5 million. Giddy Finance, 1.3 million. All these names are so weird. Pearl End, 1.5 million. Sweat Foundation, 3.5 million. Wasabi Protocol, 5 million plus. That's all in 1 month is crazy. So stay safe out there, I guess.
Good for the soul.
is the main recap. And this headline is crazy. Very wild article. I'm just going to read the headline and read some excerpts from the article. Crypto venture linked to men sanctioned in scam ring probe partnered with Trump firm. Is the headline. So last fall, this is from the Wall Street Journal. Last fall, the Trump administration announced criminal charges and sweeping sanctions against what it said was a transactional criminal syndicate that had stolen billions of dollars from Americans and others through online scams. We talked about this. It's the pig butchering thing. Less than a month later, the Trump family's crypto company, World Liberty Financial, announced that it had partnered with a virtual currency venture called AB, one of whose projects, a planned blockchain-themed resort, had been led by two men sanctioned in the U.S. crackdown. The two men were the controlling shareholder and the general manager of the resort AB was developing in the Southeast Asian island nation of East Timor. The men were sanctioned for their alleged work for the Prince Group, which we definitely talked about them, which the U.S. government says is one of the largest criminal organizations in Asia. The U.S. Justice Department said on October 14th that the Prince Group operated at least 10 violent scam compounds in Cambodia, where enslaved workers were forced to conduct online rackets, such as the pig butchering thing that we talked about, in which they develop online relationships with victims and steal their money. The same day, the Treasury Department sanctioned more than 140 people and companies for their alleged involvement with what it said were Prince Group's scam operations in a globe-spanning web of companies to launder their proceeds. So why are they working with these people? Isn't there somebody else that they could have worked with that isn't connected to this crazy
Why are we opening
criminal
blockchain-themed
organization?
resorts, Brandon?
I mean, that piqued my interest a little bit. I was like, oh, maybe that would be cool.
The last place on earth I want to go is a blockchain-themed resort.
I mean, is your like hotel card like on the blockchain? I wonder how far are they leaning into it?
I want them to go all the way.
Like, yeah, are the menus all like puns? Like when you're ordering your drink menu and your meals and stuff, they're all like,
yeah,
Satoshi's ham or something. I don't know.
Oh my God. You get scammed at least once.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Yeah. You're going to get rug pulled for sure.
This is crazy. Like, I don't know. It's at like such a time also when like we're trying to like pass some big bills, some big laws, and then it's just like you're completely associated with like whether or not you want to be, or maybe they didn't do anything wrong, but like it's just like it's just such a bad look.
We don't need this. Like, just stop doing this. Stop doing these things. Nobody wants this. It's not good for anybody. It's just awful.
I feel you. That's a good one. I'm so happy you put that one in here.
Yeah, pretty crazy story. All right, a couple quick headlines. We talked about this at the end of the show last week, and the rumors were true. BitKey unveiled a new BitKey with a screen. That seems to be the only addition. It just has a little screen on the back that, shows you different things like your wallet address and, different confirmation things and stuff like that. But I think this just makes it even more user-friendly, in my opinion. So pretty cool there. And some Canadian news from you.
Yeah, I just saw this one before we started the show. So Alberta is obviously a province here, and they have a pension fund, and they disclosed that they have a $219 million stake in Strategy. Wow. Yeah, it's huge. And
that's huge.
Yes, it's like their first Bitcoin linked position, which is unreal.
Do we know?
So I think
we probably don't know, like, but do we know like what percentage of like their portfolio that is? That's a lot of money.
So it says that their pension fund is like 195 billion. So 219 million is, not a lot out of that, but still is quite sizable.
That's like over 1%, right? Or is my math totally very wrong on that? Never do math on a live show.
No, that seems like 1-ish%.
Yeah, like not perfectly 1%, but
No, but around there.
That's decent. Get off zero.
Yeah.
They did it.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Lastly, I wanted to shout out Ord.net. Ordinals trading is now live. So if you were looking, after Magic Eden obviously shut down several weeks ago, or maybe that was a few months ago now. At this point, Ord.net seems to be kind of the place to go. The Wizards of Ord, shout out to that collection, and Lifo FIFO over there, who is doing a lot of really cool stuff. So Ord.net, really awesome domain name for Ordinals.
Sweet. Very cool.
I think that wraps it up for the week.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff to talk about. I don't think you will be on the show next week because you're going to be traveling, but
yes,
we'll see what we do. If I do a solo show, or maybe we'll bring on a guest. If somebody wants to join, send me a DM and we'll do the show.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Take my spot.
We'll do it, maybe. But thank you everybody for tuning in. A bit of a longer show today. We covered a lot. We stream live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on goodforbitcoin.com. If you were listening on your podcast app, please give us a rating. Helps the show out a lot. But we've been seeing a nice little uptick in viewers lately over the past couple of weeks. So very cool. I think the thumbnails are helping. I think that's my...
Oh my God. You crack me up. I look so excited for them every time. You're just like, look what this has generated this time.
Yeah, for those that haven't seen my tweets, a lot of our like the post show stuff, like the show notes and stuff is all generated, and usually does like a pretty good job.
Yeah, it does.
But that includes our thumbnails, which are on YouTube and on the website too. If you haven't seen them, I guess that's the call to action is go check out the thumbnails on the website. But yeah, we will see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in. Kate, enjoy your vacay, and we will see you the week after. And have a good weekend, everybody.
Awesome. Bye, guys.